video in sales, it's really like a shortcut. It's like Candyland or Shoots and Ladders. It's like going from the beginning to the end. You're taking a shortcut because you don't have to do all those little micro touches, because you don't have to be at the mercy of how the tone in their mind when they read your email, or the tone in their mind. You catch them on a bad day, like you send the video and you're like a nice person with a smile. Like, it just disarms all the baggage that comes with sales. Like, there's just a lot of baggage that can come with sales. It's such a shortcut for sales.
Welcome to the Simon Says Video Podcast with your host, me, Simon Banks, where we talk about all things video and how this powerful medium can help you grow your business. We focus on how you can get a return on any video content you create. We talk about strategy, production, content, distribution, marketing, how you can get visible, gain new leads, and get new clients. And now, on with the show. Welcome, Isaac.
Thanks for having me, Simon. Happy to be here.
Yeah, tell me a little bit more about yourself and what you do.
Sure. So I'm the co-founder of Abound Social, and if you're kind of like, what do these guys do? Why did Simon have the courage to bring this guy on? What we do is, right, we're a B2B agency, and what we really focus on is sales enablement. And what we do is, we're essentially breaking that horrible cycle of feast or famine sales that pretty much every B2B company encounters, as they're kind of growing.
When I first came across you, you were more doing LinkedIn specialism, which is what we're going to talk a little bit about today, about LinkedIn and how to use video. I mean, I've known you for pre-pandemic.
That's right.
I don't know if things have changed for you in terms of your business. I mean, a lot of businesses have changed, but there's one thing I do know since the pandemic is there's definitely an uptake in interest in video. Well, how do you see businesses using video, and how should they be using video?
Well, what I can do is it's kind of a loaded question, since video can fit into so many nooks and crannies, right, in a business. And so what I can definitely speak to, because again, what our wheelhouse is helping B2B companies with sales and that push there. And so I can definitely speak to how video fits into that part of the big machine, right? And so if you're wanting to talk, how things have maybe changed a little bit since 2020, a lot with video, obviously, which is I think it's great for sales, because I think a lot of smaller companies felt like video was out of reach or just hard to do. And honestly, there's just a lot more tools available just in the last 2 years. What I see happening with video right now is I see sales teams using it for direct communication with the people that they want to sell to, but maybe not in a salesy way, right? So there's a lot of things going on there, and we can unpack it more later, depending on the direction we want to go. So you've got, like, a lot of times now, a salesperson is becoming more comfortable with, I'm going to record a video of myself and send it to this person. Like you're saying, like our kind of main thing that we're leveraging is LinkedIn, which is if you're going to be chatting with someone, it's text-based. So if you're chatting with someone via text, you're 100% at the mercy of the tone that they have in their mind when they read your message. And so there's a lot of kind of hesitation pre-COVID for salespeople to use video to, like, actually communicate with a person that they want to do business with. And now I think we're over the hump on a lot of that, which is fantastic. And then there's a lot of really cool stuff happening for like community and video and all kinds of fun stuff that just never existed. I mean, it existed, but it was never like really a big common thing until it had to be.
No, I love this because I refer to the phrase that I use is, I think video is the missing link, particularly when it comes to sales. So often people see what we call top of the funnel sales as a marketing tool, but they're not using it effectively as a sales tool. And I would have thought, I'm interested to know your thoughts on this, particularly with the pandemic. It's getting harder to reach people. So I guess salespeople traditionally would actually either do two things: either pick up the phone and actually speak to somebody, or they would go in to see them. So you'd have a one-to-one meeting. Now, pandemic, that's been impossible to a certain degree. And even now, I would prefer to do a Zoom meeting to start with before I actually traipse myself into town and spend half of the day doing this.
Totally.
And also, I also find there's a whole generation coming up where people don't want to pick up the phone. All right, they're a bit shy. I'm actually speaking to someone, over the phone, because maybe this one's a bit salesy. And secondly, it's really hard to get hold of people because who knows where they are, right? Because they're not necessarily in the office anymore.
No
So,
doubt.
I mean, how are you seeing salespeople now utilizing video as to, bypass or directly connect with potential clients or clients?
There's been a trend unfolding, and I see it becoming more and more evident as the years go by. And that is that the sales team has inadvertently become an extension of the marketing department on social channels. And so that has implications for how video gets rolled out, right? So like you're saying, 5, 10 years ago, it's I'll call, I'll email, I'll go to a networking meeting, whatever. And now the daily grind has changed a lot. And maybe people are spending more time, like for example, on LinkedIn. So what are you going to do on LinkedIn? It's like there's the feed, you can do a post, you can do a chat, there's video components in there. Before marketing would say, we've got this video, we're going to splash it out and we're going to do it on YouTube and X, Y, and Z. And then you sales people, you go do your thing. But that sort of compartmentalization of sales and marketing is really getting more blurry. It really is. And what we're seeing is the sales team just moving on a social channel. They need the material themselves that usually it's all in marketing's world. And now they're going, hey, we're out here. We have no resources. I'm a salesperson. I don't know how to do video. Like, will you please help me because I'm needing this resource? The line is kind of blurring between those two different departments, and I think companies that are aware of that and ahead of the trend, they're going, ooh, our sales teams, they need to be provided with material. They need to be empowered with being taught just how to, right off the cuff, just boom, crank out a video. It doesn't have to be super splashy. Just here's how you do it. Please do it. It'll have all these benefits.
Well, I'm also seeing in this day and age, I think particularly sales are taking longer. I mean, they're talking about you need more touch points. So maybe 20 years ago, someone used to come across you about maybe 4 or 5 times before they might
Yeah.
actually commit to a sale. I mean, now I'm hearing it's like, like 18 times, for example. So from a sales perspective, it's not as simple as
Yeah.
picking up the phone. I know people still do it and do a cold call and basically expect you to buy over the phone. I just say no. It's the same actually when I connect with people and they suddenly pitch me. You know what I mean? That pitch and connect. It's like, no, I need to get to know you. Therefore,
Yeah.
I would have thought that salespeople, and this is what you're saying, is, you correct me if I'm wrong, but people need some collateral that they can share with their potential clients. And
Yeah.
this ideally should be video based. And I am totally biased with this because video is a great way of building trust because people can actually see and hear you. All right.
Totally.
And people buy from people. How are you enabling salespeople? Well, what kind of video content are they sort of creating or needing or wanting?
Two scenarios. Okay, you're looking to buy something. You get a text from someone or like a cold email from someone, and then from there it's like, maybe you're in market to buy, maybe you're not. If you just happen to be, then sure, there's going to be 20 touch points, and what's really happening is you as the buyer are going through the process of, do you know, like, and trust this company, and then the person who's talking to you. So it's know, like, trust. And if you have no idea who that person is, it takes a lot of just effort to go through that know, like, trust. Now, category two, like, what if somebody knows somebody at the company, right? And they're like, now they're in market, and they're like, I know Simon. I like Simon. I trust Simon. We've had a bunch of video meetings. It's probably not going to shorten my like actual when I buy, but the process of going from you're a stranger to know, like, trust, buy is really shortened because you don't have to like earn my trust anymore. We're on video. I know who you are. I already trust you. I already like you. I'm going to go with you. And so with video in sales, it's really like a shortcut. It's like Candyland or Shoots and Ladders. It's like going from the beginning to the end. You're taking a shortcut because you don't have to do all those little micro touches, because you don't have to be at the mercy of how the tone in their mind when they read your email, or the tone in their mind. You catch them on a bad day, like you send the video and you're like a nice person with a like a smile. Like, it just disarms all the baggage that comes with sales. Like there's just a lot of baggage that can come with sales. So someone like watches a video and they're like, oh, this is a nice person. I maybe trustworthy, like maybe not like the used car salesman cadence kind of gets put in the drawer. And then you just it's so much it's such a shortcut for sales. And so what happens is if you are making a new contact and your goal really is, your goal in sales has to be, I'm here to bring you value. I'm the guide. Whether you buy from us or not, my biggest passion is I want you to make a good choice, right? And so with that in mind, and you're making a new contact, if you want to send them a video, you can just send a video right in the LinkedIn inbox, and they can watch it on their own time. That goes a lot farther if you can pull it off. It goes a lot farther than sending a text. Just you know what I mean? Like you're a stranger still, and even if your goal, your objective on LinkedIn is to build like a real network of people who know, like, can trust you, sending just a quick text chat, it can work. It takes longer. The video is such a super shortcut, and it's really easy for the tools to record for that. So honestly, it kind of changes over time, right? If you're using the LinkedIn app, you can actually do the video or right on your phone. So that's just kind of easy. You might not have if you're wanting like a better quality, you might want to record elsewhere because it has to be on your phone, unfortunately. So you can like airdrop it in and then upload the video that way. You could also do something like Loom or Wistia where there's like you record it in the browser. The downside there, though, this is really important. The downside, when you record it on a third-party place where there's a link and you put it on LinkedIn, what LinkedIn does is they're like, hey, we want to keep everyone on LinkedIn. So do you want to click to leave LinkedIn to watch the video? And they're like, oh, are you sure? It might not be safe. And so then if your goal there is to use video as a shortcut for trust in a sales context, through chat, LinkedIn kind of like puts up a little bit of a showstopper because they're saying like, so it's best to put the video in natively.
Yeah, I think it's quite easy to. A lot of people just overcomplicate it, right? They just suddenly think, I don't have the right camera, I don't have the right setup. But I think if you're doing what you're talking about is what I call one-to-one video or personal video. So
Yeah,
all you're doing
absolutely.
is recording a short message. I'm a big fan of these. And then you're right, when you're sending a message on LinkedIn at the moment, you need to do it through this. So I guess they'll do it for desktop eventually. You can just record it. You can then re-record it, you can edit it slightly, and then you just send it. And I guess the idea for that is don't overcomplicate it, don't overthink it. As long as people can see you and hear you, and your message is authentic, and you're offering some sort of value, perfect, right? You don't have to do any more than that.
I would actually recommend, so video goes a long way for that first intro, right? Because it sets the tone. It's like playing a song on your guitar. Like the first chord kind of sets the tone. And so if you want to, on that, right after connecting, sort of set the tone, this is who I am, this is the sound of my voice, this is what I look like, this is what my face looks like, I'm like a grump or I'm happy. It sets the tone for everything moving forward. It really does. And then I would actually recommend if you're needing to say something really important, I would actually put it as text, ironically, because it's harder to reference in video. Because a lot of times someone will scroll up and they'll go like, oh, what was that? What was that? What was that? And then they don't maybe want to rewatch the video. So it's a lot faster actually to read the text. So I like doing the video in the beginning to kind of, this is who I am, set the tone, this is who I am. And then you can kind of hash some stuff out in text. But if it needs to be referenced later, I would drop it in text. But
I think a lot of people would go, oh, maybe Americans are different to the English, maybe a bit more reserved in terms of, I'm not sending someone a video, I don't know them, they don't know me. I mean, that's the whole point, precisely, is to get to know you. I mean, in terms of, would you send a video so you connect with someone, would you message them first, say thanks for connecting, and then send them a video, or is sending a video first up a little bit, would that freak some people out, or not, or is it purely because it's so unusual? Because hardly anybody's doing it, right? I mean, what kind of response and results are you seeing with you and your clients?
Well, I have not ever had someone say, you creeped me out by sending me a video. I haven't ever had anyone say that, Some folks are it's harder for them to go on camera and record a video. Just different personality types. Some people are way more reserved and some people are more shy and more outgoing. And so there's definitely a big scope of people in there. And I'm not sure when you're watching this later where you fall into the mix. And so some people, you lean into your strengths. Some people who are responsible for sales, they're really outgoing and they're like, I want to talk to everybody, ooh, and they're just like, I'll record a custom video for every single person. And then other people who are in sales are like, you know what? I have a quota to meet. I'm going to be as efficient as possible. I'm going to get one really good take that I can use for 1,000 people, and that's what we're going to use because I just want to like take a shortcut to like this is just who I am, just sort of a your best networking introduction handshake, what that is, right? And putting it there.
Talk about LinkedIn because we're talking about LinkedIn in terms of you've got something called cover story, right? So cover story is a 30-second, basically introducing yourself. So I would say that if you're sending, I would personally try. I've done it before where I've actually recorded like a generic message and sent that to my new connections. It sort of does work, but I think it would work better if you can take the time to actually say, hi, Isaac, thanks for connecting with me. I see you do this. You see you just co-founded a new company. You're into B2B. That's great. You're in the same space that I am. Just let you know, I'm active on LinkedIn. Watch out for my video content.
So if you're in sales or you're the business owner and you also happen to do sales, right? So what you can do is you can use video to kind of like sort of pre-sow the field. And so what happens is if you can just crank out a couple simple videos and then be consistently sharing them on social, what happens is by the time someone actually chats with you, they might know who you are already. And so what happened in this client meeting is this gal goes, yeah, I was talking to someone on LinkedIn and they're like, I already kind of know who you are because I've been seeing your videos. You're right. And it's like, and it's exactly what we were talking about a minute ago, where it's a shortcut to the trust. They'd already watched the video. They already knew who she was. So, what the tone of her voice, she's a nice person. And then by the time they actually got to talking, they're just like on their own time, done all the pre-work of getting to know, like, and trust this person. So it's such a shortcut. And you can go into having a I'm the guide based sales conversation so much faster because I already trust you.
I know it works. It's actually part of the video series I'm doing. I actually interviewed one of my clients, a guy called Jim Pryor, which you can watch, where he talks about he's doing so much more video content, putting onto YouTube, that he now closes a meeting so much quicker because when he walks in the door, he says they know me because he sends them before he meets with them. He sends them a whole lot of content about this is how we work, this is the things you can expect. And when he meets them, his name's Jim, and they think, I don't know them, but they seem to know me really well. And he said his close rate has skyrocketed. In fact, his business has grown like 20% since he's actually started using video.
I can definitely testify to that too. There's been times where I've been looped into a sales call. And so we have like our 2-minute tip video series, right? Short, actionable 2 minutes, throughout the year. And then there's been times where people will go, I feel like I know you. This is going to sound weird, but I feel like I know you. And, and I'm just like, cool. That's great. I'm glad you enjoyed that. I'm glad you feel like you know me, you trust me. And so now that we're actually on a sales call, I don't have to like overcome that hurdle. All right. They already view me as the expert. They already trust me. What I'm going to say to them, they're going to take it seriously. Such a different sales meeting. And I've just let the video do the work for me beforehand, and that is actually more of a marketing play because it's a long-term play, but it's video, and it kind of just turns from marketing into sales.
Well, I'm just thinking from a sales perspective, a bit like what my client Jim did, is you can create a whole lot of content already, which pretty much answers everybody's questions, right?
Remember how we were talking a few minutes ago about the historical kind of segmentation of marketing's over here, sales is over here, and they play in different sandboxes. And if the company or the owner's like, we need to do a video, where's it going to go? Should we have the sales team create video? No, like that's kind of just ridiculous. Like, obviously, that's going to be marketing's wheelhouse. So with those lines being kind of blurring, what we're finding is that really smart companies who are positioned like they're in the know, they're going to grow. They're saying, okay, sales. You are literally on the front lines. You are actually talking to human beings about our product, right? Your valuable or your insight from those conversations is so much more valuable than our Google Ads impressions and stuff. And you're like, yeah, that's all great and stuff, but tell us, what are people confused about? when you're talking about our product or service? What are the biggest objections that literally come up that are stopping the deal from closing? Please tell us. What are the questions that they're just always asking that no one knows about, that they need to be educated about? You're on the front lines. Tell us. And then so the sales team is functioning not only for sales, but they're a crazy rich resource for saying this is what we need answered, like you were just saying, Simon. And they can say to whoever's responsible at the company, usually they're going to wear like a marketing hat, and say, hey, these are the objections that are always coming up. These are the questions that are always coming up. This is the thing that we thought everybody knew, but nobody does. We need to educate them. Will you please task whoever's responsible for creating some video so that when we get asked the same thing over and over and over and over and over, we can say, that's a great question. Here, watch this.
And I think it works for any business, any size, right? Whether you're
Yeah.
B2C or B2B, whether you're doing a product or it's a service. And it doesn't take a lot to actually sit down and with your team, sit down and work out, okay, with the marketing and the sales, because you're right, they're siloed and they don't often talk to each other, but they need to talk to each other and say, right, if you're serious about wanting to grow your business, the two need to come together. These are the questions that we get. These are the objections that we get all the time.
Yeah.
We need some content. We need some video content to answer these questions. And then the marketing can then work out. There's two ways. Marketing can do this. They can either work out how do we do it? What's the content? They can either outsource it to an agency or try and work out in-source it and see if they've got internal resources. When you're working with your clients and you recommend, presumably saying you must be doing more video, do they sort of go, yeah, we have an agency, or how do we do that, or can we do it ourselves? Or what's your recommendation?
My recommendation is if you've come to the realization that it's worth doing video, then try to have a few different assets that you can multi-purpose. And so it is really helpful, even if you're just bootstrapping it and if your budget is tight, totally get it, been there. It's helpful to have one great video that you probably needed to have an agency make, just like bring someone in, maybe some B-roll, like the bring of the crew. You're just going to need that in some way, shape, or form. And you probably aren't going to be able to make that on your own, unfortunately. So you can talk to Simon, right? And then but there's also a bunch of things that you can do just as you're going throughout your day. They don't have to be super fancy, but they're video. It's just a matter of getting it done. And they don't have to be expensive. They can be pretty simple. So if you've come to the realization that you need video, probably you're going to need to bite the bullet and just get one good one done. And then also you're going to need to make it part of your company culture, to where the marketing team is going, all right, we kind of need this. What do we have to work with? Let's just do it. It's 2022. Videos everywhere. It doesn't all need to feel like it was done by an agency. Let's just make something. We can do version 2 better later. And then same thing with the salespeople, like sales guys. Like obviously you should be doing video if you use the resources you have and just go for it. Worst case scenario, you look like a doofus and you learn for next time. Just do it.
So there's different levels at which you do need to invest in video. The only thing you need to do is have a plan and a strategy behind it. Yes, there is an investment to make in that to get all these assets in place. And I think that's a great word that you use, Isaac. Video is an asset.
It is.
And therefore, it's not just a one-off. When you've got these assets, how else can you use them? What other platform? What is the best way to distribute? And just as importantly, track.
It's a really big win if you're a small business and you don't have just gobs of money to pay a video agency like every month. It's really an easy thing to do to set aside like one day a month where you're doing something that can be recorded. And then you can take that recording, then you can like chop it up and put it all kinds of different places. And so then the next question is, all right, I would love to do that. What can we do? And I think right now, just 2022, a really easy win is a community type event that's video is a really big win. Or yeah, I would even say you and I right now having this conversation, you've got two experts chatting, you can record it, you can chop it up, you can put it a million different places, right? It can be free, it can be paid, it can be for sales, for marketing, for whatever. You've got like every Wednesday we do LinkedIn together, right? And so that's been going for a couple of years. I love it. We take that one thing once a week, a minimal prep time, right? We just record it. It's an hour every Wednesday, and we can take that recording and we can chop it up. We can put it on YouTube. We can put it on our LMS. We can do all kinds of stuff with it. Simultaneously, it's bringing people into our ecosystem. So obviously, it's totally worth the time to do. What we do and what we see people do is you'll take the video and chop it up, put it lots of places. One place that we always put stuff is YouTube, right? Just to bring people into our ecosystem for brand awareness. There's a lot of people who have sent me an invite on LinkedIn because they say, "Hey, I've been watching your stuff on YouTube for a long time." And like, thanks, you just saved me the work, like you just came to me. So definitely I would put it on YouTube. We definitely put it on LinkedIn. There's actually two different sort of avenues that you can go with it. There's your personal profile and your personal branding, and there's also from the company page. So you could do it both places there. Obviously, the strategy is a little bit different there. We also put it on our LMS on our website. So we have you have an Abound Social account. We have a bunch of free and paid material in there. So we take that thing that we're doing just on a regular basis, putting it in our LMS, and we're just continually providing more resources so that we can keep people keep coming back so that we're sticky. And then we put it on Vimeo, but that's more just for it looks better, on our website. And then we don't do much with Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, just because we're in the B2B space, and I'm sure there's a place for that. It's not really been our wheelhouse, so can't really speak to that. But we take it, we chop it up. We definitely use it on LinkedIn a few places, definitely use it on YouTube, and definitely use it on our own ecosystem in our LMS. And so here's the really hairy part about B2B sales, is it always goes through people. And so it's really hard to track, did this video all the way through result in this new sale? Because it leaves the trackable pixel cookie world, and then it's like, boop, now we're on Teams or Zoom, or now we're on a video, and that's all kind of over, and now we're moving to email, and now the contract's going to go through, and the lawyers are going to look at it and review, and then boom, it's like, what can we do? You know what I mean? And so it's really hard to associate a revenue amount for new business in B2B, because there's always that kind of pit stop where it leaves the funnel, it goes to two people talking, and then drops off a cliff for tracking. And so you kind of need to be more paying attention, is the video getting people talking? Is the video producing leads? And so you're probably more looking at the role that video plays into bringing down your cost per lead. It's going to be harder to associate revenue, cost per acquisition with the video, just because, again, there's that pit stop. But cost per lead, all that fun stuff.
Well, I think that's one of the issues with why people they don't put a huge investment into video, because it's like, well, if we spend 10 grand on a video, can you guarantee it's going to give me 20 grand back? And it's difficult. It doesn't work. Video doesn't work that way. You're right. It has to integrate into your whole marketing and sales process. Video is a tool. I think people, right. And it's not necessarily a magic bullet in that regard, but it will help move the needle in terms of you'll get more people interested. And if you're clever, which all business owners surely are, in terms of when you do a piece of content, and you can track it, so you'll know that if it's on your website or on YouTube, it's just about having a call to action onto the end of it or into the text, and maybe you can actually create a different call to action with a different URL or a different link, and that way you can say, oh, that person watched that video on YouTube and then they came to us, or that person watched that video on our website and then they came to us. Video is often seen at the top of the funnel in terms of marketing, and now we just talked about how it can be used directly into sales, but we shouldn't stop there, right? What about after sales? What about when you've got the clients? How do you retain clients with video?
We started doing this about 10 years ago, and in the beginning I hated it. I hated it. 10 years ago, this is when I was an employee at another company before I started my own business. And the boss goes, hey, why don't you send out a video? Money was tight. We're like, we can't lose any clients. Do it. Send them a video. Just keep them in the loop. And I was like, oh, this is the worst thing ever. Took me 100 tries. I've got my old 2010 MacBook, and the fans roaring, and the mic's right by the fan. Is the worst video possible, Simon. It's the worst video possible. But that was the moment. I was thinking about that earlier this morning. It's that is the moment where I realized there is a place that video plays in client relations, in the service industry especially, there's a place that video plays there for retained revenue. So, we're talking about new revenue, but if you're a business owner, you should absolutely be concerned with saving money and retaining clients, right? So what we do, and we actually did it a little too well, so we had to tone it back. So take what I'm about to say seriously. So you fast forward 10 years, I'm like, let's do video. So every month we were recording a video. We were just using Loom, and we'd record a video and say, hey, look, here's what we did last month. Here's what's going on. Here's what's our plan is for next month. And our clients loved it. They're like, oh man, we love being in the loop. It's like they're associating a person with the emails that usually go, and it's really great for just that relationship thing, because the service industry, and we're in the service industry, it's a relationship industry. And so it's very helpful just for them to be in the know. And the way that kind of translates to revenue is they might be solicited by a competitor. And if they've been out of the loop, like if they don't like feel like there's that connection with me, if they don't feel that, they might go, oh, maybe we'll entertain the idea, and so then I might lose the client. But if I'm kind of keeping that channel open and they trust me, they're in the know, there's a lot less likely to jump ship. And then there's the situation where you do that too well, and then they expect it. Like the clients like it so much, they expect it. And so this is what happened is we're like, oh man, we're getting kind of busy. Thank goodness, we're finally getting out of the are we going to make it stage. And so we're like, we need to kind of offload some of our reporting and make it more automated so that they can check in anytime, and just for the scalability of like the staff stuff. It's worth doing, but just know clients like it so much that you got to be like, yeah, I'm not going to give you the whole thing.
A lot of businesses spend a lot of time chasing new clients. I'm sure we're all being guilty of that, including myself, in terms of you're taking your current clients for granted. When actually what you need to do, and you've inspired me to go, right, I need to be better also connecting with my clients. And I do a lot of one-to-one videos, but I need to do more of them because not many people are doing it. And you're right, people love it. What's that saying? It's much easier to sell to an existing client, right, rather than try and chase new clients.
Totally. And even like on the client side, depending on what you're selling, your service product. So we're like, with us, there's a very heavy onboarding process. There's a lot of stuff that we have to do just to get everything set up. And that means that there's a lot of communication with the client. And so we'll actually do the same thing, same tools. We'll just use Loom. We'll say like, all right, here's where we are in onboarding. Here's what we need from you. Here's what it looks like. This is what it's going to turn into. And we'll send that during onboarding. And they're like, oh, that was so much more clear because of the visual, and so much more like fun to watch than reading a really long email. Thank you so much. And I'm like, oh, good. I'm glad you liked it, because I didn't want to type a 10-page email. And so just doing that type of communication is not only like faster, but at client side, they like it more. They're happier. They're more in the clear. And then that's absolutely crucial for client retention, obviously.
Well, I think people expect video now. I mean, it's how every social media platform is video led. A lot of websites need to be video led purely because people want to consume information quicker. We live in the world where we're bombarded with so many messages. People don't want to read a long text, especially if it's on screen. And I think I know video is a great way to distill a lot of information in a quick amount of time.
Same kind of thing. I mean, our company, this is not going to be everybody, but at our company, we're 100% remote, And so the nice thing there is that, we don't have to drive to an office. I'm sitting here, like maybe I'm wearing gym shorts underneath this nice shirt. So I'm not going to tell you, right? but that comes at a cost that you have to be very mindful of. And that is the team dynamics. There's a fine line between we're all remote, we're chatting on Slack or whatever. When you're missing out on that person-to-person interaction, it's weird, Simon. It's like if you remove that and you only go text, things start to digress. And it's almost like there's this weird passive-aggressive hostility that starts to percolate. And the best way to like stop that is to say, we're going to jump on a video meeting so that we can see each other's faces, like have a good time. And then what's going on is it's like making us all human again. It's making us human again. It makes it so when I get a message on Slack, I'm not like assuming the worst about that person, because I know they're a good person, right? I know that when I'm getting the message on Slack, I'm taking the voice and the face that happened on the video, and that's my lens or my filter that I read it through. And that has a huge impact on employee retention. Oh my word, it's so expensive to find employees and then to train them. I don't want to lose an employee just because we didn't do a video meeting because we're virtual once a week. Like I would much rather do that than spend tons of money on all the other stuff. And so we found that just making that part of our routine is so helpful for employee productivity, hello revenue, employee retention, right? And happy workers always work harder than unhappy workers. So if you're not doing that in your virtual, just word of the wise, I would.
No, I think it's amazing, especially a lot of businesses I know, and especially larger corporates, we are moving into a hybrid
Right.
where you spend a couple of days at home and maybe a couple of days in the office. But I do think a lot of people miss that social interaction,
Mm-hmm.
but they also miss probably the gossip side of what's going on in the business, and you don't
Sure.
have that what I call that water cooler moment where you're sitting there,
Yeah.
what's going in your world. So
Yeah.
I think business owners and maybe managers probably need to get better at recording some messages to reassure their
Mm-hmm.
team. This is what we're working on. This is what we're finding. This is what's going well. This is what's not going well. Because otherwise, you create a vacuum, and when there's silence, people just fill that with drivel and
Yeah.
rumors. All right.
Yeah.
So
It's
I
true.
think just yes, the team meetings are great. I think a lot of people are like, oh, it's over Zoom potentially
Yeah.
or sick of Zoom, though I still think it's a very important part of how business is done, especially internal. But I'm just thinking maybe as a business owner or a manager, maybe you should start to, create some just short little videos. Again, you can do it on a smartphone, just reassuring your team, saying, "Okay, guys, just let you know this is what we're working on. All right, these are our
Yep.
wins for this week. This is what I think we need to be working on for next week." And even just share some personal stuff because that's what you do in the office too. It's like okay, I'm on holiday next week. I'm going to Greece, wherever it might be,
Yeah.
and just make it a bit more fun, a bit more personable as well. And I
Yep.
think you're right. I think people will then feel more part of the community and part of the business rather than working siloed. And I think that's the biggest issue that I think most people have working from home is you think, I feel siloed. I don't know what the hell's going on.
There's also the dynamic of on the staff side, just doing some training videos. And I know there's a whole scope of like really well done professional training, like to make sure all your compliance, dot your T's, cross your I's, dot your I's, cross your T's. And so there's that, but there's also like, listen, if you're a small business owner and you find yourself explaining the same things over and over and over, and by the 50th time you're going, oh my gosh, I just want to pull my hair out. Look at that's what happened to me. So it's just like, oh, like you're just going crazy because you're tired of wasting your precious time. You have this light bulb moment where you go, oh, I should just take 30 minutes and record videos. And then when it comes up again, I just say to my staff, watch this. Bye. you know, and this is like it is such a time saver. And I mean, if you're a business owner, you have to be very disciplined about what you give your day to. And if you're doing the same things over and over, and you could just record it once and say, "Here you go," like, oh my word, that is just astronomically freeing and liberating, and frees up resources for business growth.
No, no, I love it. Absolutely. Create once and then use multiple
Yeah.
times. Absolutely brilliant. I mean, I think we've got so many nuggets of gold here. I mean, in terms of recording that content, what would you recommend? Some
We
resources?
just I use the one that we discovered first, and so we just still use Loom. There might be better ones out there. We use it. We stick to it. I like being notified when someone watches it as well, so I'll get an email when someone watches it.
So there's plenty of resources. I know Loom is one, but I'm also finding platforms like Vimeo and Wistia and
Hmm.
a company called 23. They all now allow you to screen record
Cool.
your
I didn't know
screen
all that.
and yourself, and you can now track it as well, so you can see who opens
Oh,
it. So
nice.
there's loads of resources. In the show notes, I will put some links so that if you
Awesome.
haven't heard of Loom yet, or the other ones, just check them out. I know you can use Loom for free. There's a certain limits on it. You can try it out, but I know if you're using it more often, it's definitely worth doing the paid for version. It's definitely not expensive. When I first came across you, Isaac, it was all about LinkedIn. All right.
Yeah.
And even though I think I've known you for at least 2, maybe 3 years now,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's a lot of things that have changed with LinkedIn when it comes to video. All right.
No
So can
doubt.
we just, what are you seeing happening with video on LinkedIn?
What am I seeing happening with video on LinkedIn? I'm seeing it being more like everywhere on the platform. And so not terribly long ago, this is going to sound silly until you realize that LinkedIn's owned by Microsoft. Haha, joke. Like video, you couldn't even upload a video to LinkedIn until, something like 2020. And it's like, really, LinkedIn? It's in for whatever reasons there. But since then, they've done a pretty good job about saying, all right, obviously you should be able to upload a native video. This is like, duh, no brainer. I can't believe we didn't do that 10 years ago. Hello. But also, there's the ability to, like I said, you can now drop a video in the inbox. So when you're chatting with someone, you can do LinkedIn Live, right? And there's a number of things that you can do with LinkedIn Live, which is pretty cool. Events, right? There's a video component with live events going on LinkedIn. It gets broadcast to people's profiles, actually, which is pretty cool. So there's a lot of stuff going on there as far as it being everywhere. And since it is everywhere, there are a lot of things that you can do with it. So I feel like the strategies really can abound. If you want to do events with video, there's a whole conversation there. If you want to do video in the chat for sales 101, there's a whole big conversation there. If you're using video for your personal branding as a business owner or for sales, and you're putting video in the newsfeed, there's a whole conversation to be had there, right? There are so many things. Even like if you're wanting to get hired, like there's so many things that it's like, if you know your destination, there probably video has a role to play in the journey to get there. And so trend number one, it's everywhere. So trend number two, there's a zillion things because of that. And then what I'd say number three, and then I'll get off my soapbox. I've seen as far as the newsfeed piece. So I think in the one-to-one context and the event context, on LinkedIn, it stayed pretty professional, which I really appreciate. Like, I'm not on LinkedIn to be on Facebook. Like, I'm on LinkedIn for work, right? That's just me. But I've seen the last year or two, I feel like a lot of the stuff in the newsfeed, and it's kind of bittersweet. It's maybe gotten a little off topic, and it's nice to spice it up a little bit. It just can be a little boring if it's all about work. But I feel like there's been a little bit more of the just valueless stuff where and then you kind of want to unfollow someone if it happens too much. But what if once in a while they share something great? And so I have kind of seen that a lot in the news feed where it's more just kind of silly stuff, and that is what it is.
What they're saying is that LinkedIn's not Facebook or TikTok. I mean, I agree. I reckon it's a great platform, and that's my favorite platform, LinkedIn. And I think for our audience, there's lots of video ways into LinkedIn. All right, it's not just about posting a video onto the feed now. As you said, you can do a live, you can do personal messages, you can even do a live meeting now, which is fairly recent. And I always think LinkedIn are a bit behind the times when it comes to video. They seem to wait till every other platform sort of does it, and then they sort of follow it, and then maybe they drop it. So do you remember LinkedIn had stories for a while?
Yes, that's a great example. Yep. Yeah,
that didn't last very long. Obviously, decided people weren't really engaging with that. I still think video on LinkedIn is a long way to go. Personally, I prefer to see a bit more analytics behind it. I still think the live is clunky. I think that the video meeting could be better because at the moment, until it's just one-to-one, you can't share your slides, you can't have more than one person. And I'm sure all these, all these features will come. But for our audience, just to think, there are different, ways you can use video within LinkedIn, and which you should really expand to how you should be using video for your business. I mean, Isaac, thank you so much for your time today. It's been brilliant.
Thanks for having me on, Simon. It was a great joy to be here.
Wow, what an episode that was. Isaac just gave so much value there, so many nuggets of gold on how you can be using video in the sales process, client retention, staff onboarding, and so much more. You may also want to know that the YouTube version is different to the audio versions that you can listen to on your favorite podcast app. All the platforms that we talked about in the video, I will put the links in the show notes. If you want to know more about how you can use video for sales, I suggest you check out another episode of the Simon Says video show where I interview Mike Killen.